All right, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for our second engagement session. Again, this one is a focused question and answer session based on questions that we received in the presentation engagement session yesterday. So thank you very much for joining us and being with us for another afternoon into the evening so we can hopefully answer as many of the questions as possible that were received yesterday. My name is Jennifer Piggott, and I am with ICF helping Caltrans on this particular engagement session. I am not with Caltrans, and I am not working with Caltrans on other projects. So I am solely here to serve as a neutral facilitator to help the meeting run smoothly and help ensure everyone has a fair and equal opportunity to ask questions and provide input. So thank you again for being with us tonight. Okay, here's our agenda for this evening, and I will read it aloud for our call-in only users. I do want to remind our call-in only users tonight, you can participate by hitting *9 on your phone, which will allow you to raise your hand if you have a question or a comment. So in just a moment, I'm going to introduce the Bay Area Director for some welcoming remarks, and then I'll introduce our panel this evening. We'll go through why we're using Zoom webinar for our engagement session tonight. I'll go through some ground rules, and then we'll roll into the question and answer session where, again, we will answer as many of the questions as we're able to that were received in yesterday's session. So again, welcome everybody. I would now like to introduce Dina El-Tawanzi, the Director of Caltrans for the Bay Area. Dina?
Thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dina El-Tawanzi. I'm the District Director for Caltrans here in the Bay Area. I'd like to welcome the Wood Street community, their advocates, cross-agency panelists, ICF, and our Caltrans team to the second session of facilitated engagement. I'd like to share that equity and engagement are a major focus of Caltrans' plan, values, goals, and strategic imperative. We greatly appreciate this opportunity to engage in collaborative communication, steering towards solutions through equitable engagement. Over the last several weeks, our team has worked with Wood Street community and provided an inclusive space for all voices to be heard. Caltrans appreciate your effort and insight. We have listened to your feedback and retained a third-party facilitator to help us to navigate the pillars of inclusive conversation, as well as sharing information on policy and employment opportunity support tools. We have also engaged cross-agency stakeholders, to champion your concerns around safety and social determinants on issues such as mental health, various health inequities, food disparities, and environmental inequity. Before we journey further into this engagement session, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that Caltrans is aware of the impacts that we have on the communities we serve. Our purpose and intent with this session is to work together to repair relationships and to address issues of the past. Caltrans' goals here are to listen to, engage with, and also help educate participants by hearing about and acting on the issues being discussed, and also equipping advocates and the community with beneficial information, tools, and knowledge in an effort to provide a safe environment on our right-of-way and improve the overall well-being of all the citizens we serve. I want to thank you for your time and your effort working with us to find solutions to the challenges that we hope to overcome together at Wood Street. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Dina El-Tawanzi, for those remarks and for being with us this afternoon. Next, I would like to just introduce the panel that you will be hearing from during the question and answer session this evening. We have the Caltrans Maintenance Division Chief, Leah Boudou, with us today. The Director of Older Adult Services with Alameda County Behavioral Health, Kate Jones, with us this afternoon. We have the Caltrans Right-of-Way and Survey District Deputy, Mark Weaver, with us this afternoon. And then also the Bay Area Legal Office, Stephen Silver, with us this afternoon. So with that, we will move into our ground rules, or first, sorry, let me move backwards. Let me just explain why we're using Zoom webinar. So those of you who are with us yesterday, you heard this yesterday, but we're using Zoom webinar because it really is the most user-friendly platform for virtual engagement. It's the platform that most cities and counties, as well as government and federal agencies are using, as well as throughout the school system for the state of California. So we have found it's the platform that people are most familiar with. But probably most importantly, unlike other platforms, Zoom allows participants to engage whether they join via the webinar computer link or just call in by phone, making it an accessible and equitable platform to use. As I mentioned at the start of the meeting, the call-in only users can participate using with Zoom differently than others because they can hit *9 to raise their hand. Whereas usually if you're a call-in only participant, you're not able to raise your hand and participate in a two-way manner in a webinar. We have restricted video feeds in the interest of time, but we can turn the videos on for speakers as time allows. And again, we'll continue to meet virtually to ensure the health and safety of all participants as we continue to navigate the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, that's why we're using Zoom webinar this evening. And I don't think I mentioned this before, it is on the slide, but for the call-in only users, I do want to make sure everyone realizes that tonight's meeting is being recorded, same as we recorded yesterday's meeting, and that recording will be made available at a later time. Okay, so now for some ground rules for all of us to follow tonight. So the purpose of this afternoon's meeting is to provide answers to the questions and comments that we received during yesterday's meeting. As a reminder, some of the questions that were raised may require additional coordination or research. So while Caltrans hopes to answer all of the questions today, some may not be answered today, but will be answered at a later time. But again, the goal is to answer as many of the questions that we received yesterday to answer those today. After we get through the question answers, as time permits, we'll accept additional questions this afternoon. So please type additional questions using either the chat or the Q&A function throughout the meeting, and I will provide an opportunity for the call-in only users to raise their hands so I can call on you. Again, *9 to raise your hand as a call-in only user. Please allow everyone an opportunity to speak before raising your hand a second time. Please limit your comments or questions to 1 minute to ensure everyone has an opportunity to participate, and we'll put a timer on the screen for those on the Zoom webinar that'll be counting down your 60 seconds to help you keep track of your time. And again, we are recording this meeting, so please no profanities or foul language, and we'll just try and keep everything as peaceful and professional as we did yesterday throughout today's session. So again, we really appreciate everybody participating, and we'll go ahead and get started with the Q&A session. All right. So the first question that we received during yesterday's session, just get to the top of my file here. Okay, the first question was, who is participating in this call, being yesterday's call? The presentation that we provided yesterday seems directed at residents. Are there residents on the call? So yesterday's call consisted of Caltrans team members and invitees, mainly those that were invited to the October 27th meeting. Additionally, I know that the meeting invite was forwarded on to people, so there were some additional participants beyond the October 27th meeting. The next question that we received yesterday is, why hasn't there been more direct outreach to residents when this information is primarily relevant to them? So Caltrans is adhering to the CDC policies during the pandemic. Additionally, Caltrans engages local and county continuum of care partners to engage people experiencing homelessness to offer services and housing options. There has been concern for safety for outreach engagement expressed by our partners, in addition to conducting outreach without a housing option to offer. The next question, just give me 1 second to move to a different file. Okay. The next question is, how do you plan to get this information out to residents? Specifically, to clarify, my questions were about residents living in Caltrans land, not residents of the surrounding neighborhood. Printouts, how will you distribute? The information was in response to questions and concerns posed to questions to Caltrans from the October 27th meeting. The November 16th and 17th sessions, the ones that we're in right now, will be posted and responses will be available electronically. Again, tonight's meeting is being recorded, and that recording will be made available by Caltrans at a later date and time. Okay. The next question that we received is, what happened to the lease agreement under City of Oakland pre-COVID? Joe DeVeris made with Caltrans. And I'm going to direct that to Mark Weaver for response. Mark, if you would please unmute and turn your camera on and provide a response to that question.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Caltrans currently has 4 leases with the City of Oakland, various sites around the city. One's at Northgate, one is at between 5th and 6th Street under 880 down by Jack London Square. We also have a new space that's opening up off of 7th Street near the post office. And the one that we have that's closest to Wood Street is the Mandela shelter site. Other than that, we have not been approached for any other sites within the city of Oakland.
Okay, thank you, Mark. The next question that we received last night is, how do you reconcile the fact that even though Caltrans on paper does not have contractual relationships with Unhoused, non-government entities, Caltrans has had people living at Wood Street for over 5 years. This calls for a huge shift in thinking and policy, and when reconciled, would lead to a productive, safe spaces for people to live. Mark, I'm going to also address that one to you to answer.
Thank you. We don't have a contractual relationship with anybody on the down on the Wood Street sites because it's basically not allowed. We've partnered with the City of Oakland for shelter sites to have places for people experiencing homelessness to have refuge, and we will continue to do so as long as there is space available.
Great, thank you, Mark. Okay, our next question that we received last night was a request to please print out the Q&A part of this video to distribute to Wood Street residents so they can comment in more ways than virtual. And again, we recorded yesterday's session and we are recording today's session as well. And Caltrans will make these recordings of the meetings available at a later time on the Caltrans website. Okay, our next question that we received last night is the answer to the question about the decision-making process on how to close settlements was still unclear. It mentioned a series of steps. Please describe those steps and if there are places where residents can stop closures with positive interventions. Kate, I'm going to turn this one over to you for a response. Kate Jones.
Okay, I am going to have to go back. Can you please tell me which question that is so I can read it?
Sure, it's question number 11.
Okay. The decision-making process on how to close settlements was still unclear. It is mentioned a series of steps. Please describe those steps. Oh, gosh. Let me get my camera on here, and Hi, everybody. My name is Kate Jones, and I am the Director of Adult and Older Adult Services for Alameda County Behavioral Health Care. I do not actually have the answer to that question. Our task is to work with our community partners. About 85% of our services are actually contracted out with community-based organizations to provide services to individuals who are considered, based on assessment, to be individuals with a moderate to severe mental health condition, and then individuals who are at any juncture of the substance use continuum who are seeking care. And we seek individuals who are Medi-Cal recipients, Medi-Cal eligible, and health pack recipients. So, we don't, I'm not involved really in any kind of decision making around housing. I do work with healthcare for the homeless. We do have some of our staff paired with their street outreach teams to assist as much as we possibly can. We have other outreach teams that go out into the community to engage individuals, but they are not specifically geared toward individuals who are homeless. And so as far as how decisions are made for encampment closures, as far as I know, that is a city by city decision, but I will let the cities answer that question, as I am not the right person to do so.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate the information. I'm going to read the question one more time, and I'm going to direct it over to Caltrans. So it's question number 11, which is the question to the answer about the decision-making process on how to close settlements was still unclear. It mentioned a series of steps. Please describe those steps, and if there are places where residents can stop closures with positive interventions. So Leah, I'm going to ask you to unmute and provide a response to this question as well. Leah, are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me okay? I've been having technical difficulties.
No worries, I can
Oh,
hear you and we can see you just fine.
Sweet. So thank you for the question and thank you for the patience. I'll try and make the process as simple as possible. I know during dealing with bureaucracy, it seems like there's so many rules and regulations, but our core focus is safety. So how we've been addressing each settlement, as you might call it, is from the safety perspective first. We look and make sure that the site is safe for individuals to be, that the infrastructure around you, the bridges, the tunnels, the roads, that they are safe. We do have guidelines that let us know that if people are living in our bridge cells or if we folks are tapping into our power, that would definitely raise a red flag and be seen as an unsafe condition. And at that time, we would engage with things like organizations like Kate and our continuum of care to provide an outreach component to folks in order to get them a safer place to be. We are not actively looking to remove folks based on just being on our right of way. However, we're very focused on safety and the hazards that being on a highway or near a freeway or would cause to any individual. So hopefully that made the process simple. It's just from a safety lens. There's a safety assessment that's done, and that's how we move forward, and along with a partner to help us manage and provide support for any social needs, because that's not, Caltrans isn't really equipped for that. We're relying on our partners to help us through this process.
Okay, great. Thanks, Leah. Okay, our next question that we received yesterday is, can people experiencing homelessness sit directly on the decision-making committee regarding closures? And I'm going to direct that one to Stephen for a response. Stephen, are you with us?
Yes, I am. The concern that raises is that on the one hand, that obviously seems like a very equitable recommendation, but operationally it raises challenges. The problem is the closures are identified by maintenance staff, and across, we're dealing with 9 counties for our area. It'd be difficult to identify individuals who would be representatives for that group. Who would we identify as the advocates representing them? That would present some challenges there. So it's an excellent question, but it would probably be very difficult in terms of implementation.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. The next question is also for you. I'll go ahead and read it for you. It's question number 6. Can you provide a formal statement about the fate of the Cobb huts?
Yes. The wooden structure in question was built without Caltrans permission on land that belongs to Caltrans, and as such, it's an illegal structure. And it's in violation of fire codes and other requirements under city and county and state laws and ordinances.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Okay. The next question that we received yesterday is question 12. And how much Caltrans funding actually trickles down to on-the-ground services that would actually elevate quality of life? Kate, I'm going to ask you for a response for this question.
Sure. Again, my name is Kate Jones, for those of you that might have joined late, and I am the Director of Adult and Older Adult Services for Alameda County Behavioral Health Care. Caltrans does not provide any dollars to the Alameda County Behavioral Health Organization or healthcare services, to my knowledge. I don't know if Caltrans provides any other dollars to any other organizations. We are funded by Medi-Cal. We are funded by what's called 2011 and 2019 realignment state dollars. We also receive some tax monies through Measure A, small bits through that. We do get money through the Mental Health Services Act, otherwise known as MHSA. That is the frequently called the millionaire's tax. And then we also get some county general fund. And as I said, as the mental health plan for Alameda County, there are just over 50 of those throughout the state. We're responsible for providing services, and there are a host of sort of mandated services: crisis services, assessment, therapy, hospitalization, testing, and a whole host of case management and psychiatry. Those are some examples of the mandated services that we provide directly or fund through our community-based organizations. And so some of our staff partner with the Healthcare for the Homeless teams, the street medicine teams. This is a new partnership with us. So I really want to thank Healthcare for the Homeless and Lucy in particular, Kasdan, for our really tight relationship that we've been building over the last couple of years. And so our staff go out and partner with the street medicine teams to get people connected to services for either mental health or substance use. We also have some teams that are called early engagement and outreach teams, and they're really specifically geared toward engage, and then IHOT teams. So we have in-home outreach teams as well, and their task is really focused on connecting people to services, and hopefully they want those services. Our services are voluntary. Unless somebody is placed on a 5150, which is a 72-hour hold. So we do have those teams. They are not specifically focused on outreach to unhoused or marginally housed individuals. They could be individuals that are in an apartment, residing with family, or they could be unhoused individuals. And we do have 2 case management teams. They're known as full service partnerships, and they're interdisciplinary teams that are community-based. They're our highest level of community-based care that we provide for supports for individuals who would otherwise likely be hospitalized to be able to remain in the community. And we have 300 of those slots between 2 programs. So those are just some examples of some of the programs that we have. We do partner with social service agency to work with individuals to get them signed up for benefits, Social Security, Medi-Cal. That's very much a part of what the staff do who are engaging with individuals seeking care. We have assessment services if people are interested in, and if we don't serve those individuals, we refer those individuals to places that can assist them. So I'll pause there and see if anyone has any other questions.
Okay, thank you, Kate. I imagine we'll probably have some additional questions for you. While Kate was speaking, I did receive a question in the chat, so I moved the PowerPoint back a few slides, just asking for Stephen's name, and Stephen Silver is with the Bay Area Legal Office, and I also put that in the chat. Okay, the next question that we received yesterday is question number 13. How much money does Caltrans spend on money for the unhoused? What is the expenditure to clean up Wood Street? Leah, I'm going to turn that one over to you. Leah, you're still muted. I'm going to ask you to unmute and see if that helps.
I guess I was double muted.
There you are.
Anyway, strange. Sorry. Okay. How much do we spend on, I'm sorry, the question again. So many devices. Litter specifically or just at Wood Street?
So the question, Leah, is how much money does Caltrans spend on money for the unhoused? What is the expenditure to clean up Wood Street?
Okay. So I think Kate may have spoken to it a bit, just the technicalities of it. We do not have an expense for unhoused. However, we do manage sites where there is litter and debris. And at Wood Street, for example, I think we're spending upwards of $1 million in order to manage at least the first portion of the cleanup that we had, where there were several vehicles rather, and hazardous debris removed. There oftentimes in this space, we've been finding hazardous waste to remove, and it adds a premium to our litter cleanup. I'm a loss for the specific numbers. I can give a breakdown for typical litter cleanup. I'd say in the Bay Area, we spend probably $20,000 23 to 28 million a year, just trying to keep up with litter and debris, not specifically at cleaning up unsheltered sites. And like I said before, there is a hazardous waste component because of the sanitary conditions. That is a premium. And so we do have that broken out, and we have a separate service that assists us with managing that. Apologies, I'm not able to pull together specific numbers. And actually, I guess I would have a question to maybe better define what that question was trying to get at. I'd really like to answer it. But I wasn't certain whether the question was really getting at what does Caltrans spend on the community specifically. If that's the question, I'm unable to answer it.
Okay, thank you, Leah. I imagine we'll probably get some additional questions or clarifications on that. Thank you so much. Okay, and folks, please continue. We see the questions coming into the Q&A feed as well as some coming into the chat feed. Feel free to continue to type those in, and we will get to the questions that you're submitting right now as soon as we address the ones from yesterday, and we'll just get through as many questions as we can tonight. Okay, so the next question that we received yesterday was asking for Caltrans to address policies of extensive violence in encampment closures.
So Jennifer,
Yes, Cheryl.
we have an answer to that, but we're not prepared to share it because it's still under legal review. So we'll
Okay,
have to post that one. Thank you.
thank you, Cheryl. And that's just a good reminder. Again, the goal is to answer as many of the questions we can from yesterday, as well as many of the questions as we can that are coming in tonight. But some, as Cheryl just pointed out, may require additional review or coordination. Okay, so the next question that we received yesterday. Making sure I'm not skipping one. Okay, is how can nonprofits legally build tiny fireproof homes on Caltrans land? Mark, I'm gonna direct this one over to you for a response.
Hello again. Before a government agency can do anything, we have to have specific authority through the legislature to enable us to do certain actions, or all of our actions. So we have no specific authority from the legislature to lease to nonprofit or any other entity other than a city or county for shelter sites.
Great, thank you, Mark. Appreciate the response. All right, the next question that we received is why aren't Caltrans on the ground doing outreach? Kate, I'm gonna direct that one to you to start off.
Well, I can't speak for Caltrans, but again, Alameda County Behavioral Health does partner with community-based organizations, and our own staff go and do outreach in the community. We have, as I said, our early intervention and engagement teams that go out into the community to engage individuals. We partner with healthcare for the homeless for providing some clinicians on the street outreach teams. We have our mobile crisis intervention staff that are out in the field up until about 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. So we definitely have resources out in the field. Oftentimes, in the course of those interactions, we are finding out and assisting people with their benefits. And we may actually assist someone in getting them information on housing. And then also in that moment, we may assist in trying to get somebody in for further evaluation and referral for treatment if that's what's necessary in that moment. And ideally, that's what that person wants.
Great. Thank you, Kate. Appreciate the response. Okay, and so as a follow-up to that question, we have an additional answer here, which is Caltrans staff has been on the ground at Wood Street since cleanup started in May, coordinating with many on site. Caltrans, when necessary, meets people where they are, often to discuss transportation-related projects to a community, but recognizes that we are still in a pandemic. Caltrans is not equipped to perform outreach to discuss services or housing options and engages our local partners to assist. Okay, let's see. The next question that we received is how is Zoom inclusive? So as I previously stated earlier in the meeting, Zoom, unlike Teams or WebEx, allows for increased participation because of the ability for the call-in only users to raise their hand and identify that they want to speak and participate. So it does allow it to be more inclusive than some other platforms because it creates a two-way engagement and communication platform, unlike others where the call-in only users can only listen to the meeting, but they can't participate. Okay, the next question we received is question number 18. Is Wood Street collective or lifelong medical partnering with Caltrans for $1 to build a community? Mark, I think that one's over to you as well for an answer.
I have not been approached by either of those entities, but again, we do not have legislative authority to enter into leases with anybody other than a city or county.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate the response. I think the next question is going to come to you as well, which is Caltrans is partnering with Lifelong Medical for a lease. Mark?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, this is Kate.
Yes.
It's possible that Lifelong is going to Cobb on Wood to do street healthcare outreach. I don't know if Lucy's on the phone. I think she's not able to be here.
Hi. Oh, I'm here.
Oh, great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Yes. This is Lucy from Healthcare for the Homeless. So, in terms of
Lucy, unfortunately, we can't hear you.
healthcare.
Yeah, Lucy, unfortunately, it's a really bad connection. You might want to try and hang up and dial back in.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Oh, great.
You can hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Lucy.
Okay, great.
just saying that lifelong medical is, as Kate noted in her earlier presentation, much of the county work is done through contracts. So lifelong medical, we do contract with to provide our street medicine services. And they do go to Wood Street 1 day a week for kind of general outreach engagement, and then a second day a week for really targeted, specific follow-up medical and other social service care with folks there. So that is the county-funded work of Lifelong that's happening weekly on Wood Street. That again, as Kate noted, is done in really our continued effort to kind of coordinate across the county departments to make sure that we are helping to support folks in accessing not just healthcare, but behavioral health and substance use services as needed.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Lucy. Okay, so the next question is, why are nonprofits excluded from being able to lease or rent on Caltrans properties? Mark?
The short answer is they were not included when the legislation was written. But I can't tell you why they were not included. They're just not in the legislation.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Okay, the next question that we received last night is it possible to employ people on Caltrans land? Leah, I'm gonna direct that one to you.
Still muted. Okay. We do have some for employment with the state. And I think, can you hear me, Jennifer?
Yes, go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay. I can't get my video to work. And the point of my video was to show I have the Clean California background. Currently, we are ramping up our hiring efforts, and we've been engaging in hiring fairs. Recently, we had a hiring fair at Laney Community College where individuals were able to come out and file applications in person. I know we've spoken a lot, and there are a few questions about making things accessible for everyone. So we also have hard copy applications, as well as there is a website that you can go to and find jobs with the state. We're currently hiring service assistant maintenance positions in maintenance. That's just one of several positions we have within Caltrans. But that's one of the positions that we'll be targeting in a hiring event that we're working with some of the City of Oakland partners, December 2nd, I believe, at the BART station at the Coliseum. It should be a large event where we're really trying to get folks employed. So if there's an interest there, there's an opportunity through this informational. I'll provide links to how to get a job with the state, and we can also make sure that the flyer goes out for the upcoming events that we're having for hiring. But many positions open for recruitment with Caltrans.
Okay, great. Thanks, Leah. And your video did work, so we were able to see your background.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Clean California. Thank you.
Okay, the next question that we received yesterday is question number 22. Is there a legal path for people to stay on Caltrans land? Stephen, I believe that one is directed to you as well. Stephen, are you there?
Yeah, I'm not, for whatever reason, it's not letting me restart my video. But yes, there we are.
There we
Okay.
are. We see you.
Yeah. The short answer is, it would be, it's a really a fact specific question. It's not one that can be answered in a general sense. So it's not a question that can be directly answered.
Okay. So Stephen, on that particular one, would you recommend the individual who asked it to maybe present a more specific question this evening that maybe we can address? Would that be your recommendation?
I would be reluctant to get into responding to a specific circumstance. So
Okay.
I would this is probably not the best forum and time to answer that.
Okay. Thank you, Stephen.
Sure.
Okay, the next question that we received yesterday is question number 23. Are there current plans to move residents on Caltrans property and when? Leah, I think that one is going to you.
I've got a real brief answer. No, we do not have any plans. At least not until there is housing available for the folks out there. So no.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Okay, the next question we received yesterday is question number 24. What are boundaries of frontage road? We want traffic calm and want to know when and where we should include Caltrans in discussion. Mark, I think that one's over to you.
Was that? I'm sorry, which question was that?
Number 24, Mark.
And could you state that again? My spreadsheet doesn't have numbers on it.
Sure. So it's what are the boundaries of frontage road? We want traffic calm and want to know when and where we should include Caltrans in discussion.
Okay, well, I get to plug a little tool that Caltrans developed. It's called Maps on Demand. It is on our website. And if you go to our website and type in, or if you type in Caltrans District 4 Maps on Demand into a web browser, it'll take you to the link. And we have digitized all of our maps and highlighted all of our right-of-way. So you can see not only Wood Street and where our right-of-way lies, but anywhere in the Bay Area. So I want to thank my team for developing that. It's very helpful for demonstrating where our right-of-way is and what property we don't know. So I think we can get the link into the chat.
It's in there already, Mark.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Thank you.
I got you, Mark.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mark. The next question that we received last night is regarding K-Rail. Should we continue to work with Oakland DOT? Leah, that one's over to you.
Megan, yes, definitely continue to work with Oakland. That would be the best path forward. And I wanted to put out a plea to the facilitator. I had a couple of links to the state application as well as our host of exams for careers. If someone could drop that in the chat, do you all have that, Jennifer? Malcolm?
I do. I can drop that in just a moment.
Thank you. So that's going back to the employment question from earlier, but back to this current question, yes, OokDOT is the path forward for the city of Oakland.
Okay, and that should
Thank
be in there
you.
now. Leah, is that what you were looking for?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Great. Thank you so much. Okay, the next question that we received last night is question number 26. which is, can you provide a formal statement about the fate of the Cobb houses? Stephen, this one's also over to you.
Again, the issue there is that the wooden the structure that in question is an illegal structure, and Caltrans, there was no effort to obtain Caltrans permission to make use of the land, and the structure itself, as I understand it, is in violation of fire codes and other city and county ordinances.
Okay, thank you, Stephen.
Mhm.
Okay, the next, and I believe this is the last question that we received last night, and then we'll move into some questions that we've received tonight, which is question number 27. What are we doing with the abandoned cars at Wood Street? Leah, I believe that one's also over to you for a response.
Okay, abandoned vehicles. So it depends on the condition of the vehicle. And so we assess it with law enforcement, CHP, and if we can identify the owner, we try and track the vehicle back to them. And if it is not identifiable, if it's salvage materials, we will dispose of it. One other thing, I'm not sure if when we cleared vehicles for Wood Street, we also worked with our partners with the city. So they possess some resources that we don't have. Let's see. So because of the number of vehicles that we did find on the site there and the various disarray they were in. But they've either been, as I said, disposed of, which is takes to the wrecker, for lack of an appropriate word, or it was impounded with the law enforcement for return to the previous owner.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Appreciate it. Okay, folks, those are all of the questions that we received last night. So now I will go ahead and move into a live question and answer session based on questions that we've received this evening. Again, we'll do our best to answer these tonight, but some may require some additional research and coordination and may not be able to be answered this evening. Okay, so the first question that we received, and again, we've had questions come in through the Q&A chat as well as the actual chat feed. So I'm going to do my best to answer these in the order in which they came in, but I apologize if I read any out of order. Is it more difficult for the hundreds of people's lives displaced to rebuild from an experience of violence and loss than it would be to take some staff onto the streets to talk directly to the people? I'm going to make a guess here that this one will also need a little bit more time and coordination, similar to the other question we received yesterday on violence and encampments. I'm going to just ask Cheryl if that's accurate, that we're going to have to get some additional coordination on that response.
I think that's right. Thank you, Jennifer.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next question is more, I believe this would either go to Leah or Stephen. Are the Cobb structures set for removal? Leah, do you want to take that one first?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. Stephen, anything from your perspective on the Cobb structures being set for removal?
I do not have that information. Again, my understanding is the structures themselves are not legally permitted, but as far as whether they're slated for removal or not, I have no idea.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer, this is Dina. I want to jump in here because I think this is an important question for a lot of the Wood Street community. At this moment in time, we have not made a decision about the Cobb houses. And as Stephen mentioned, these were erected illegally and unpermitted, which of course is a safety concern for the department. We would like to explore all options possible. And perhaps, one of the options is to be able to move them elsewhere. But we have not made that decision at this time. So I just want to make sure that this question is addressed or is answered.
Okay, thank you, Dina. Appreciate that. Which I think helps with the next question that we received. This one came in, I believe, while Stephen was speaking. Stephen was talking about the tiny home, not the Cobb on wood structures, and then to ask Stephen about Cobb on wood structures specifically. So thank you for addressing that. We received a comment that Caltrans receives billions of dollars from the governor's office to resolve encampments. Another question, are you planning to dismantle the Cobb structures? That was just addressed. The next question, Cobb on Wood doesn't have Cobb House. It is a community. It has a community kitchen, free store, clinic, and a shower. One of the first questions was about Cobb on Wood and wondering if Caltrans would give a formal statement on that resiliency hub and how long it can stay on Caltrans land. I do believe this was just addressed by Dina. Dina, anything else that you want to address related to this question?
At this time, we really have not made a decision, and I sincerely mean that. We are trying to work with the community, with the city, and all involved stakeholders to arrive at the best decision possible for the Cobb houses. But what we can promise here is to keep the communication coming and to keep engaging the community as we're trying to sort through some of these decisions.
Okay, thank you, Dina. The next question is looks like it's a clarifying question to one that we received yesterday, which is, my questions were not answered about the 48-hour notice for demolishing, I apologize if I say this name wrong, Tariq's Cobb tiny home. Leah, is that maybe best addressed by you?
Yeah, I think what is important to see here is that the 48-hour notice, we apply that for clearing of when we're working with individuals who are actively encamped. And I believe the home in question was not completed or occupied, and it was seen as an illegal structure on the right of way. And so therefore we did not apply the 48-hour notice. And it is currently an active construction site, is my understanding as well right now. So
okay,
that would be the excellent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leah. Okay, so those are the questions that have come in. A comment in response to that question is, yes, that home was only 700 hours deep in volunteer labor and was 1 day from occupancy. Okay, so I'm going to move over to some of the questions that have come in on the chat feed this evening. Let's see. So there's a request, Stephen, for me to readdress one of the questions that went to you earlier. Give me just a moment. And again, so this is in regards to the Cobb on wood structures, for me to ask you about Cobb on wood structures specifically, as opposed to just structures in a general way.
And what is the specific question?
Give me one moment. I'm trying to figure out exactly what question that was related back to.
Understood.
Yes. So the question that we received last night that we asked you, Stephen, is can you provide a formal statement about the fate of the Cobb huts? And the request is to ask you specifically about the Cobb on wood structures, which I believe Dina has addressed, but I'll just give you an opportunity to address that if there's something else to elaborate on.
I think Dina addressed it, and I'm not sure there's much else to say. Again, the structure itself is not permitted. It's illegal. There are safety concerns that it raises. But as far as its ultimate fate, I think Dina was clear that that decision has not been made, and the department is looking into options for where they want to go.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. We also received a comment also surrounding the Cobb on wood structures, which is proposing Theo Cedar Jones and Lydia Blumberg to be residential reps for Alameda County in regards to that issue. Let's see, the next question is, so where is the $53 billion in funding for encampment resolution from the governor's office going? So to the Caltrans team, I'm not sure who is best to address that question. Is that maybe Mark?
I'll take a stab at addressing that, Jennifer.
Thank you, Dina.
So we are receiving our annual budget for litter pickup and cleanups and encampment cleanups. Recently also, there is the Clean California initiative that came in, which is about 1.1 billion to beautify and address litter and encampment and other things among. I stay corrected. It's not necessarily addressing the encampment, but it's more addressing the beautifying the state and cleaning our spaces. And so that is part of that is applied through Caltrans. But a lot of the housing funding that's coming through the state is going to our local partners, in particular in the county and the city. And that's why we really lean in and leverage these partnerships to provide the services that are needed for these communities through these partnerships. As you probably are aware, Caltrans is not a housing agency. We have to work through our partners that have this housing capabilities and expertise to provide the housing services and also the other social services that are needed. So I just want to say that we do get a budget in general for cleanups and for litter. And that budget, I don't have the number on me right now, but it's something that we can provide later for the group here if they're interested in that. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Dina. The next question is actually in a similar area. Will Caltrans spend some of its multi-million-dollar cleaning budget to hire residents to do cleaning?
Yeah, I'm gonna try to chime in on that again. And I think Leah tried to answer that question earlier. We're really hoping that we can employ a lot of folks that are interested in employment with the department. We do have a lot of open positions currently. And as Leah mentioned, we had a mass hiring event in Laney College in Oakland. Our hope is to really try to gear these employment opportunities towards our local communities here. We are also looking to help a lot of the people that are trying to re-enter society homeless population that are interested in employment opportunities. We're open to all these type of employments. Our mass hiring events were specifically targeted in areas that are underserved within our own communities here. We started with Oakland. We had another recent one in San Jose last Saturday. But the hope here is to hire as local as possible, as many folks as we can. And also some of the programs that the department is really exploring, and is also adding to our hiring workforce, is people that had incarceration history. If you're trying to re-enter society, again, there are some programs through the department that is geared towards employing these individuals as well. So the bottom line is we are trying to hire as many as possible qualified candidates within the community that we're in.
Okay, thank you, Dina. Okay. I'm going to go through a couple more that we've received in the chat, and then I do want to call on the folks that have their hands raised. Okay, the next one is a comment from Theo Cedar Jones that he spent many hours removing trash and flammable items from Caltrans land, including cleaning the vernal stream, which was destroyed by Caltrans. The next is also a comment that we need to have new legislation to require Caltrans to lease land to nonprofits for people to live on. The next question is, the legislation for legal occupation of state land has come from Executive Order N-23-20 passed late last spring. Why doesn't this apply when including a nonprofit or other entity like an individual to access land? Leah, is this one maybe over to you for an answer?
I think this is a Mark question.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Mark? And I'm happy to read it again if needed.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That legislative order was for us to identify properties that could be used for shelter sites. So the executive order does not supersede the legislative authority that was given to the department to use its land for shelters for city and county agents.
Okay, thank you, Mark. The next question is actually to you as well. It's in response to a previous question that you answered. And we have folks asking what specific law you're referring to that restricts leases of Caltrans lands to cities and counties.
It is Streets and Highways Code 104.30, and I did include it in the Q&A and the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. Okay, the next question is that the previous question was not presented correctly. The question is, how do we call Zoom inclusive when the unhoused have no electricity or internet? I'm happy to take that and see if someone from Caltrans wants to weigh in. Again, Zoom allows for people to participate using a phone, a computer, and if you don't have internet, you can just call in to the line. So it allows for increased participation as compared to other platforms that require an internet signal. Okay, the next question is, aren't private companies leasing land from Caltrans, like the tree trimming company under the Grand Avenue Bridge on Wood Street? Mark, is that one over to you?
Yes. Well, we do have a commercial leasing program that allows us to lease our airspace and excess properties to commercial companies for storage of vehicles and equipment. However, the commercial leasing program has no provision for habitation.
Okay, thank you, Mark. The next question is just a comment that a previous question was in reference to a contract between the City of Oakland for a campus that relates to housing study at Wood Street for the Wood Street People's Collective that we've been at the site for 10 years. Okay, the next question is, what are you going to do to make the employment opportunities known through outreach to the chronically unhoused? Leah?
That's a really good question. You know, we have recently looked at our outreach and recruitment efforts, especially for our, I mentioned it before, our service assistant maintenance position that we're really aggressively recruiting, and recognize, as mentioned before, certain you know, websites, internet access may be required for navigating our process. So we're working to get paper applications out. As I mentioned, the hiring fairs actually provided a one-stop shop for folks to come out, fill out things on paper. If there was a computer needed, those computers were provided. So we'll be continuing to provide the job fairs and partner with other partners that can provide that type of support. That's what we're looking to do, our outreach with nonprofits and back to work outreach groups. So that is our plan to reach the chronically unhoused. And Dina's come off face mute, so I'll let her close on that one. Thanks.
No, thank you, Leah. And really, this is a good opportunity for us to ask you if you have any good ideas on how we can reach unhoused community to advertise our job opening and help them navigate through the process of hiring. Please make sure that you provide us with this information. We are truly looking at hiring as much as we can locally, and this would be a great opportunity for a lot of the community at Wood Street if they're interested in employment with the department. It's a good time. We have multiple positions. We are really looking to employ as many people as we can on Clean California. So if you do have ideas on how we can do this better, do not hesitate to reach out to us with some of this information or some of the avenues that you have for communication that we may not be aware of.
Okay, thank you, Dina. Thank you, Leah. The next comment that came in is that expressing some displeasure with the format this evening, and also that Caltrans admin needs to see who the body of the unhoused talents and those whom are not mentally ill who can and do know how to get a license. Okay, the next is also a comment. We've tried repeatedly to ask that question in a million different ways. People are interested in staying on Caltrans land legally. They have nowhere else to go. That's the main question and purpose of these sessions. So Leah or Mark, anything to address? Or sorry, Dina?
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And I think this is a very good question. And I believe Mark may have alluded to it in his previous answers. There are ways to do that. Caltrans have leased some of its sites to the cities to be able to put some housing, temporary housing opportunities for unhoused. And as Mark mentioned, you know, we are very open to that. We would be happy to partner with the city of Oakland for any opportunities that they see for that. As Mark mentioned, we normally would work through the city. We would have to have an agreement with the city in order for us to be able to allow the unhoused on our right of way. And there's some good reasons behind that. One of the reasons is we are not capable of providing the proper services for the unhoused. So therefore, we cannot necessarily administer that on our own. We would need help, and we need to make sure that we're employing the right services and to be able to truly service the people that are unhoused on our right of way. So again, there are ways to do that through the city or any other government agency that's willing to partner with us on that can do housing.
Okay, thank you, Dina. The next question came in from Xavier, and I believe, Mark, this one's over to you. In reference to the traffic calming measures question that you addressed, where you spoke about the Caltrans District 4 map on demand. Xavier emphasized that they were really looking to see if there's some additional traffic calming measures that Caltrans utilizes that could be explained.
Well, I would not be the person to explain those.
Okay.
If you have a question about leasing or property, I can field those, but I would have to defer to somebody else for traffic.
Okay, Dina?
I just want to chime in on that, and I may not have the complete answers on it because we don't have the expert within our team on this call. But if there are any traffic calming measures on the city street around surrounding the Encampment area and Wood Street or any other location for that matter, usually the proposal comes to us from the city. And they work with us, and we take a look at their proposal and evaluate it for safety and other concerns, and make sure that we just vet through it before issuing an encroachment permit for them to be able to do these kind of improvements. So if this is something that the person that asked the question is interested in, we're happy to explore that. Please work through the city of Oakland and raise your concerns to them, and they can bring it to us, and we'll be happy to work with the city on addressing these concerns.
Okay, thank you, Dina. Okay, we've got a few more questions in the chat, but I do see we have a couple hands raised. So I'm going to go ahead and call on you. Again, we'd like you to limit your question or comment to about a minute, and I'll start a timer on the screen to help keep time. Let's see. Alchemy Mauve, Griffin, I see your hand is raised. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Mute. Hello?
Yep, I can hear you. Go ahead. You have a minute.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's a lot of things I'd like to say, but I think that we're all moving in the same general direction as to being able to utilize as much land as possible for the benefit of the unhoused population that's growing all the time here in the state of California. I do look forward to talking to you at a different time. I'm pressed to go to another meeting, and I'm going to say I'm the one voicing about the inconvenience of this forum. I'm lucky enough to have a cracked phone to be able to talk to you, and Zoom is a wish if you don't have internet currently. And currently we have a process and a problem with the unhoused. So we're the unhoused people here, and it would be great maybe if you guys made a gesture to make Wi-Fi happen here rapidly, and maybe in exchange for the mistake made when the portable house that could have been moved was smashed to ribbons. But you could talk with the members of the Commons for that. Anyway, I enjoyed this meeting, and I will talk to you hopefully soon in the future.
Thank you for your comments. And I would like to just reiterate what the director said previously. If there are recommendations for a platform or a forum or ways to engage, we certainly are welcome to hearing those, and we would appreciate those being brought up throughout the session. Ms. Margaret Gordon, I see your hand is raised. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Well, good afternoon. This is Ms. Margaret Gordon from the West Oakland Environmental Indicators Project. First of all, this type of process that you put forth right now is not community engagement. The community is not able to have a dialogue or conversation that is pointing to problem solving and solutions. With you as the facilitator doing all the directions, why are we here having anything to say? Because it's not a balance of power here. Only voices for the last 45 minutes we have heard is either yours or Caltrans. So this is not community engagement. And you're not, and nobody's talking about the air quality issue of putting people in harm's way, where there's multiple levels of traffic, from cars to buses to trucks that will affect the health of the people on Wood Street and other pieces of land that's connected to Caltrans. And I'm not hearing any of those conversations from anyone. And I really do resent this type of a process that is not empowering people to be part of resolution and problem solving.
Okay, that is a minute. Thank you for your comments. Let me call on some others, and then you're welcome to raise your hand again if you have another question or comment. Okay, so I'm going to move back to the chat. This one's awesome from Xavier. It's in reference to the question from yesterday about the K-rails. And the question is, what should the residents do about the K-rails if they've already engaged Oakland DOT? Mark, are you able to elaborate or provide a recommendation of another course of action if folks have already engaged Oakland DOT?
I'm sorry, I'm not the K-rail person either. Maybe Leah.
Oh, no, me. I guess that was me.
Okay, go ahead, Leah.
So going back to the context of the the K-rail, so there's also the Department of Public Works or directly with the city. I'm not quite clear. Hopefully Xavier can be more specific about what we want to do with the K-rail or where you're trying to put it. So it sounds like you've reached out and they haven't responded to you.
Sure, and Leah, Xavier has his hand raised, so let me go ahead and ask him to unmute, and maybe he can elaborate on the question. Xavier, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Thanks, Jennifer. Sorry, I think this is just getting lost in translation. I think Cheryl answered the question, but putting it clarifications in the chat keeps bringing the subject back up. But I think we know what to do as far as having Oak DOT reach out to Caltrans. We'll figure it out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Xavier. Okay, the next question that came into the chat was from Miss Margaret Gordon. How is Caltrans resolving the air quality of those parking in RVs? Is this a question that someone can address on the call this evening?
Hi, Jennifer, this is Cheryl. So I don't know if this addresses specifically what Miss Margaret is referring to with the RVs. Yesterday in the presentation, one of the questions that came up, and I believe that was from her, is what are the mitigations for air quality and equity to address the unhoused health disparities? And so what we are saying is Caltrans is currently participating as a member in the implementation of the West Oakland Community Action Plan to reduce emissions in this neighborhood. Vegetative barriers to prevent the transport of diesel particulates and other pollutants from the port and highway. Biofilters are contemplated and need at least a year of design and a year of construction, in addition to a funding source for the construction phase. Possibly funds are available through Clean California or the Stormwater Abatement Project, which are being examined right now. Road dust and sweeping freeways. There's been no studies on the efficacy of those operations. And so that's all I have to share. And again, that was in the presentation yesterday. So we did try to address that question regarding the air quality.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Miss Margaret Gordon, I see your hand is raised. I'm gonna call on you to see if you have an additional question.
I sit on the West Oakland Community Action Plan. No staff that has authority to do what you just said is sitting at that table. They're not sitting as a member of the steering committee. They're not sitting as part of an implementation team. They're not sitting there doing any of the things that you reference. So I would like to know, when are you planning to come and sit at the table, a person with authority to do the things you just said?
Okay, thank you, Miss Margaret Gordon. Cheryl, is there anything else you're able to elaborate on that question this evening?
No, not at this time.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Thank you, Miss Margaret Gordon. Okay, so the next question that came into the chat is a clarification that Lydia and Theo were suggested as individuals who can help do on-the-ground outreach and sit on decision-making boards for encampment closures. The next question that came in is, could Caltrans go to the encampments to hire? Leah, I'm gonna direct this one over to you.
I just found that one. That I think that is a possibility that we can explore, especially working with our partners. I'd like to take that as an opportunity, like Director Caltrans noted. We're looking for all types of ways that you will be open to engaging with us. So if that's what it is, then we will note that down. I do believe we do have a plan to connect more with the groups out there, and I'm not sure if you're also talking about the individuals that were noted before. Oh, that was just for the encampment closure board that doesn't exist. So yeah, we will take that under advisement. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Leah. The next comment is a recommendation to meet with the community in person, just like the city of Oakland has been willing to do. The next comment is that residents are concerned with having land for habitation. A previous commenter's insistent on air quality does not reflect the chief concern of residents. Okay.
Hello?
Yes, Mav, do you have a question?
Sorry, honey, it's pronounced Maeve.
Sorry,
yes,
Maeve.
I just wanted to clarify. I'm one of the co-founders of the Wood Street People's Collective, the group that's been here for 10 years. And I just wanted to say that the community extends way beyond the 7 or 8 people that are the Cobb on Wood and the Commons area. Those people speak for about maybe 18 people, but we have 300 people here on the site and an extended camps that come here for many purposes and reasons that are resource. So I just wanted to clarify that the Wood Street People's Collective is pretty much the body politic. So.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Okay, give me a second, folks. I'm just scrolling through the chat to find the next question. Okay. Okay, I believe that has taken us through all the questions that were received in the chat. There's also a request for the traffic calming measures for that question to remain open until a direct contact is provided, and someone that oversees that for Caltrans can answer that question. So we will take that down as an action item question to respond to at a later time. Okay, Ms. Margaret Gordon, I see your hand is raised. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
I would like a response in writing from Cheryl Chambers based on the things that she says that Caltrans has in proposal or process around air quality. I would like to have that. I'd like to have that in writing to be sent to me. I know you have my email address.
Mm-hmm.
So I can pass it on to the other membership of the West Oakland Community Action Plan. That Caltrans has these things in mind around air quality.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Margaret Gordon. We'll take that also as an action item to provide Cheryl's comments in writing based on the information from the presentation. Okay, we received another question in the chat. Would Caltrans be willing to meet the residents in person to answer more questions and hear their concerns? Leah, maybe is that one over to you for a response?
Jennifer, this is Dina again. We are open to all ways that we can resolve some of the concerns that you have. And if meeting in person is something that you would like us to do, then this is something that we can certainly entertain. It would be good to have all our partners present at such a meeting. And I know that Cheryl has been coordinating a lot with with all stakeholders on this. So I don't know, Cheryl, if you have anything more to add to that question.
I think there's been contemplated having a meeting with all the stakeholders, the railroad, Oakland, Capitol Corridor, with the residents housed and unhoused, but we're only been contemplating it by Zoom. I understand, I see in the comments about Oakland meeting, but I know there's a town hall meeting following this that's via Zoom. And there's a lot of meetings that are going on. So I have no problem going to public meetings. We've all done it for years, but I think once we get past the pandemic, it's going to be a lot easier to do that. So, but I think we need to continue the dialogue in whatever safe format we can do it and not make an excuse not to meet. But yeah, we will continue to follow up. And then just a comment to Ms. Margaret, what I read was on slide 13 from the presentation yesterday, which will be posted hopefully before the weekend on the site, and we'll send the link. So if you need something else, then we can correspond, Ms. Margaret.
Okay, thank you, Dina. Thank you, Cheryl. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, those are all of the questions that we received this evening in the Q&A feature, and also all the questions that came through through the chat function. But if anyone else has a question or a comment they would like to present this evening, please feel free to raise your hand. If you're a call-in only user, you can press *9 to raise your hand if you have an additional question or comment that you would like to make. Again, I will remind everybody we're trying to keep those to 1 minute to ensure that we can hear from everyone who would like to make a comment. Any other questions or comments this evening? You can feel free to raise your hand, press *9, or type your questions into the chat or the Q&A functions of Zoom. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, seeing no additional hands raised or questions coming in through the Q&A function of Zoom or the chat function, we'll go ahead and wrap up this evening. We really appreciate your participation in tonight's session. And we do have some action items for some of the questions we weren't able to answer either from last night's session or tonight's session that we will be getting back to all of you on. We have some documentation that we will be working on that we will get out to any of the outstanding questions or comments that were submitted. And like we previously stated, both last night's session and tonight's session have been recorded, and we'll make those recordings available on the Caltrans website shortly. So with that, I thank everyone for your participation. And as also previously stated, if there are other ways for us to engage and reach all of you and to collaborate, whether it be a different platform or a different type of forum, please feel free to send those over to us, to myself or to Cheryl. And we want to continue to collaborate and engage in the best way possible, but to truly hear your concerns and answer your questions. So thank you again, everyone, for participating this evening and asking your questions. And thank you to Caltrans for answering as many of the questions as we were able to. So with that, I wish all of you a nice evening, and we will be in touch and meet again soon. Thank you so much.